Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
So moving on to topic 3. Here we'll look at land, one of the resources. Okay, so we'll look at land resource. Now land is a very important resource, okay, because it supports life, it supports human life, it supports vegetation, it supports wildlife, it supports economic activities, it supports communication, transport system, etc. Okay, so land is very significant or important for all nations across the globe. It is a very important asset because of that very reason. Okay, asset means very important property or very important part. Okay, it should be used with care. Land as a resource should be used with care because it is limited. Okay, so planning of the use of land as a resource is also very important because the resource itself is very limited. Now in India we have very rich relief, or we have very rich physical features, right? So we have mountains, we have plateaus, we have plains. So we have a rich land resource. Now we'll look at the use of land as a resource in India. Okay. Now physical and human factors determine the land use pattern of any area. So how the land has been used, that is determined by physical and human factors. How the human use the land or their activities determine the pattern, and the physical factors like weather, climate, physical feature, the topography, they also determine the pattern of the use of land. So physical factors are topography, climate, soil types, etc. And human factors are population density, technological capability, and cultural traditions. Okay, so these show how the patterns of land use has been. Okay, so here in this chart we can see there are two charts. One is for the year 2002 and 2003. The other is for 2010 and 2011. Now there are different colors here and they denote different categories. Okay, so this one here is forest, but the same shade here is for different category. So you can see that this is the percentage of land. This is the land resource and various types of use of land. Okay, so land is used as forests, they are used as barren, uncultivable land, they are used as non-agricultural land, they are used as permanent pastures and other grazing land. So you can see the percentage. All right, so these are the percentages of the land and how they are used. They are used as grazing pastures, they are used as uncultivable land, they are used as cultivable wasteland. So these show, or this helps us understand how the lands have been used. So what we can see from the two diagrams is that land under permanent pasture land and land under tree crops have decreased, meaning that the pastures have decreased and the area or the land with tree crops, with trees, have also decreased. Now when there is decrease in the vegetation, when there is decrease in the pastures, the open grassland areas with plenty of grasses, we have serious consequences. Okay, because then the cattle, the cow, the buffalo, the goat, the cattle cannot have food for themselves. They feed from the pastures. Okay, They feed from the pastures. So when there is decrease in the pastures, then it becomes a problem for the cattle population, because they'll have no grazing lands or less grazing lands. Okay, areas where they can graze, where they can roam around, eat the grass, eat the plants. Okay, but from the same diagram, we can also see that the land under forests has increased marginally, slightly. Okay, marginally means slightly. Okay, and fallow lands, which are lands where the cultivation does not take place, they in those lands cultivation takes place once or twice in about 2 or 3 years. So the fallow lands are those lands where cultivation takes place only once or twice in about 2 and 3 years. Now these lands are of poor quality. The land there, the soil in that land is of poor quality, and when cultivation takes place, when the farmers try to cultivate in that land, that involves, their activity involves very high cost. Okay, because of that they avoid cultivating in such fallow lands. Now, if the fallow lands are included in the net sown area, so there are areas where cultivation takes place, and there are areas where the cultivation takes place only once or twice in 2 to 3 years. Okay, but anyway, if we put these two land together, which in the diagram you can see, then the net sown area, the area where cultivation takes place, increases to 54%. Okay, now the area or the land used for cultivation, it varies from state to state in India. Say for example, West Bengal's total area of land where cultivation takes place is different than that of Punjab or that of Kerala or that of Madhya Pradesh. Okay, so we will now compare states of Haryana and Punjab. The land of the cultivable land, or the land where cultivation takes place, the area where cultivation takes place in Haryana and Punjab, with that of other states like Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Manipur, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Now in Punjab and Haryana, the area where they cultivate, the total percentage of area which is cultivated is 80%. So if the total is 100%, out of 100% they use 80% to cultivate. Okay, but in Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh and Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the area where they cultivate, that's only or less than 10%. So you can see how the difference occurs. Punjab and Haryana uses most of its land resource for cultivation of crops. But in other states like Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, in the northeast and Andaman and Nicobar Islands, they use only 10% or less of their land for cultivation purposes. Okay. Now, the main reason for this, there must be a main reason why some countries used most of their land for cultivation while some states in the country uses most of their land resource for cultivation while others do not. They use very less percentage. The reasons are climate, soil, relief or physical features of the landscape, irrigation facilities, etc. These are the main causes which allows a state to use their land resource for the cultivation. Okay, some use more of their lands because maybe they have more rainfall or they do not have soil erosion, while others they have more rainfall but they have soil erosion, and there they cannot use their land for cultivation. Okay, so these are the reasons which leads to difference in the percentage of the net sown area. Now, other reasons are in Punjab and Haryana, there was Green Revolution that took place. Okay, so with the success of Green Revolution, they could cultivate more crops. Okay, now In 1952, National Forest Policy was brought out. Now, this policy, according to this policy, it was said that a country must have its forest covering 33% of the country's geographical area. So, if this is the total land of the country, then 33% of the geographical area of the country should be covered in forest, should have forest. Okay, this was the law brought out by the National Forest Policy in 1952. But at present, when you see, the forest covers that we have in our country is only 23. So you see, 10% deficient, 10% less than what it should be. Right? Now, this has caused the reduction in the forest covers. The reduction in the forest has led to millions of people living in the fringe area, who live in the fringe areas of forest and depend upon the forest for their livelihood to have difficulties. Okay, this very fact that the forest area has been reduced, that has impacted the lives of those who have been depending upon the forests for their livelihood. Okay, who live in the forest or who live right outside the forest, and they have been depending upon the forest for its food, for its other things which with which they carry on their daily lives. Okay. Now, some part of the land resource are also called wasteland. Wasteland. Now, wastelands are those lands which include rocky, arid means very dry, and desert areas. Okay, and these land, their agriculture cannot take place. Okay, so but some of the wasteland, they can be used for other purposes. Okay, non-agricultural uses. And in these areas, what take place? Settlement of people, roads are built, railways are put, okay, set, industries are built. So you see how land resource is used in our country. Some of the or most of the land resource is used for cultivation. Some of them are termed as wasteland and they cannot be put to use. Some of the land are used for non-agricultural purposes, like building houses for people, building roads for transport and communication, building railways, building airports, building industries and factories, etc. Okay, so in this manner, the land resource is used in our country. Now, land degradation is one of the problems which is faced by the land resource. Okay. Now, land degradation is caused mainly by the human activities. Because of the human activities, the land degrades. Okay. And if we do not use appropriate measures, if we are not aware and if we do not try to use measures or adopt measures to prevent that land degradation, then further degradation will take place. So that is why we have to conserve and manage the land resource as well, because it is a very important resource. Now, land degradation disturbs the ecological balance. Land sustains life, wildlife, human life, vegetation, etc., etc. It's a very important asset for all nations in the globe. So, when the land degrades, okay, it disturbs the ecological balance. It affects the environment. It affects the human lives. The causes of land degradation is or are the causes of land degradation are deforestation, overpopulation or increased population, because of which more and more land is used for building houses, for cultivating it. Okay. poor land use, no proper use of land, insecure land tenure, inappropriate land management practices, and poverty. These are some of the causes which are mostly related to human activities, and that leads to land degradation. Okay. Land provides us with food, clothing, and shelter, and it has always played a very important role in our lives, in our sustenance, and have been providing us with food, clothing, and shelter. On land we can build houses. On land we can grow cotton, which will go on to make fabric, and then we get our clothes. On land we do agriculture. With our agricultural practices we grow crops and we get our food, right? So the lack of proper measures to conserve land, that will have serious results, that will have serious consequences. Okay. Now, some of the degraded lands, some of the lands which are degraded, they are called wastelands. These wastelands are called wastelands because they are of no good use. Okay. Now, wastelands mostly can result from inherent or imposed disabilities, meaning wastelands, there are natural wastelands, but many of the times wastelands are created as a result of human activities. Like for example, there is a plot of land and we keep on disposing our chemicals that we use for the production or manufacture of medicines, drugs, right? And this plot of land is used as a dumping yard. Now over the years, what will happen, the chemicals and all that settling of the chemicals, that will hamper the quality of the land. Okay, and that will lead to making that land a wasteland. So we are imposing, we are, through our activities, we are making a land wasteland. So this is one of the causes of how we are degrading the land. Okay. So the wastelands or the land degradation is, we can see it, or it is caused by location, environment, chemical and physical properties of the soil, or financial or management constraints. Okay, they are caused, or these factors like environment, chemical and physical properties of the soil, financial or management constraints, because of these reasons the land degradation is further taking place, or it occurs. Okay. Now land degradation has many causes, although we said that human activities play a main role. Okay, but there are other causes as well, like overgrazing. When pastures, when land is used by cattle to graze, to eat the grass, to eat the plants, it's okay. But if they keep on eating, if they overgraze, then what happens? That land or that area gets denuded. The plants and the grasses will be gone. Okay, and with that soil erosion will start to occur, because the roots of the plants holds the soil and protects the soil from eroding. But if there are no plants and hence no roots, then the soil will erode. Okay. Another cause is abandoned mining sites. Now we dig the land to mine minerals. Now after that mining is done, then that mining site is abandoned. Now with that plot of land is degraded, that can no longer be used. Okay. Waterlogging is another cause for land degradation. Waterlogging occurs with over irrigation. Okay, it retains too much water. Okay, and that also degrades the land. Mineral processing. Now when we said that minerals and resources are processed to be able to utilize for human activities, for other activities, right? Now while processing all these minerals, which many times are not good for us or not good for the land or the plants on the land. So what happens, these minerals go and settle on the land, okay, and when the minerals come in contact with the land and the plants there, then it has serious repercussion. It damages that land, it damages the vegetation in that land. As a result of that, what happens, the land degrades, okay. Another cause is effluents from industries, so the waste of the industries which go onto the land, okay, that pollutes the land, and as a result it degrades the land. Agricultural practices. Now when we have agricultural practices, we have it for growing crops, for growing our food, right? From agriculture we get food, food is produced. But when the agricultural practices become very increasingly rapid, okay, we do not give a break for the land, for the soil to rejuvenate so that it can yield better harvest next time. But then we keep on cultivating that land, we keep on using the land, and we cut the trees to make more areas for agricultural practices. So all these agricultural practices also degrades the land. The fertility of the soil will be gone, and the water retention power of the soil will be gone. It will also cause erosion. So all these are causes of land degradation. Now that was land as a source. Now we look at soil as another source. So soil is on the land, right? So the soil is uppermost layer of earth's crust in which plants grow. That is called soil. We know the earth's crust or the surface of the earth. Now on that surface, the uppermost layer, that is called soil. And in that layer, plants grow, trees grow, okay. Soil is a basic resource for agriculture. For agriculture, soil is very important. All agricultural activities, including raising of animals, that depend on plant growth. So soil, from soil, plants grow. Now with the growth of the plant, that is not only aiding agriculture but also aiding the animals, animal husbandry. Animals also eat the grass, animals also need that grass, and if the soil as a resource, if that is not managed, if that is not properly utilized, then it will affect not only the plants, not only the vegetation, not only agriculture but also animals. Soil is a living and renewable natural resource. Okay, it is renewable, meaning it can be replenished, it can be reproduced. Okay, but it is formed through a very slow process. It renews, but then that process is very slow. It takes almost 1,000,000 years to form soil of a few centimeters in depth. Just to form a soil of this height, it takes 1,000,000 years, okay, or more than that. Now soil is composed of many substances, but mainly it is composed of inorganic and organic substances. Now what are organic components or organic substances? Organic components are living and dead plant and animal matter. So all that dead skeleton, the leaves, all that thing that composes the organic component or organic substance of the soil. Organic part formed by decomposition of dead animal and plant, that is called humus. So humus is the dead plants and animals which are decomposed over time and goes on to form the soil, that is called humus. So soil has various components. One is organic. Now in that organic, humus is a very important part, okay. Now the inorganic substances in a soil, they consist of weathered rock materials. So the sand, the rock which keeps on weathering over time and forms tiny granules. So those also become part of the soil. Okay. Now, what plays an important part in the formation of soil? How is the soil formed? Now, soil is formed with the important roles played by relief, the landscape, time, climate, rock or rock bed, vegetation, etc. So all these come together in the formation of soil. Okay, over time with the rainfall, the rocks are eroded, the riverbeds are eroded, and with the erosion, what happens? Silt is created. That silt is deposited on the river banks or on the bed of the river. That goes on to form the soil. Okay, so all these factors play very important role in the formation of the soil. So apart from these factors, another additional factor which is important for the formation of soil is agents of erosion. So with erosion, soil is formed, right? The weathering of materials, the erosion of materials, that leads to soil formation. But the agents of erosion is also important, and agents of erosion are running water, glaciers, wind and temperature change, climate. So all these are important agents of erosion which aids the formation of soil. Now there is another small section which plays an important role in the formation of soil, that is chemical and organic changes. As a result of chemical and organic changes, soil formation also takes place. So soil is formed by chemical and organic changes, by the agents of erosion, and also by climate, landscape, time, vegetation, etc. Okay. So there are mainly 6 types of soil. Now if you look in our country, okay, there are different kinds of soil found in different parts of our country. Now those soil which are formed in different parts of country, they are formed in such a manner because of the climatic conditions that they are exposed to, because of the relief that they are situated in. Okay, so all factors play a different role in forming the soil, but not only soil but different kinds of soil in different parts of the country. Okay, now Indian soils are classified into 6 main types. First is alluvial soils, second is black soils, third is red and yellow soils, fourth is laterite soils, fifth arid soils, and sixth forest soils. Now let us look at each of them. First is alluvial soil. Now alluvial soil forms the largest bulk of soils of our country in India. Okay, they are found in the northern plains. Okay, they are very fertile, and they are also found in areas of Gujarat and Rajasthan. And they are also found in coastal plains, especially in the deltas of Mahanadi River, Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri rivers as well. They contain adequate proportion of or enough quantity of potash, phosphoric acid and lime. And because of these contents, the soil becomes best for the cultivation of sugarcane, paddy, wheat and other cereals and pulses. Okay. The alluvial soil is used intensely for growing crops. So when the area has alluvial soil and that area is used intensively for growing crops, then that area also will automatically be densely populated. People live in that area because that area has fertile soil, and in that area they can cultivate the crops. Now alluvial soil can be classified into 2. One is khadar and the other is bangar soil. Now khadar is new alluvial soil, the newly formed alluvial soil, and bangar is the old alluvial soil. The khadar soil, which is the new alluvial soil, is more fertile than the bangar soil. Okay. Next is black soil. Now these soils are sedentary soils. Okay. They are derived from lava in the Deccan Trap area. They're derived from the lava. They're composed of basalt rocks. Okay, they're found in areas of Maharashtra, Western Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Saurashtra in Gujarat, parts of Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. Now, the black soil is also known as regur, which is a Tamil term, or they're also called black cotton soil because black soil is perfect or ideal for growing cotton. Okay, this black soil retains moisture. It keeps the moisture and holds it, and moisture or water is important for the plant, right? And it becomes sticky when wet because it can retain more water. Black soil is also rich in soil nutrients. Okay, it has calcium carbonate, magnesium, potash, and lime, but it is poor in phosphoric contents, meaning it does not have as much phosphoric as the alluvial soil has. Okay, it lacks in phosphoric. The third is red and yellow soils. So red and yellow soils are soils which have presence of air and water in the soil. So it has presence of air and water in the soil. Air and water help in rusting of iron content and gives the soil the red color. So the red color of the soil is basically because of the iron content which comes in contact with the air and water, and then as a result of that contact rusts. Okay, so the red color comes out of that rusting. It is formed as a result of weathering of crystalline igneous rocks in areas of low rainfall. So areas where there is low rainfall, this kind of or red and yellow soils are formed. They are found in eastern and southern parts of Deccan Plateau, and they are also found in the states of Orissa, Chhattisgarh, southern parts of the middle Ganga plain in northern India, and also in the Western Ghats. The fourth type of soil is laterite soil. Now the term laterite comes from the Latin word later. It means brick, and it is given that name because it is red in color. Okay, it is composed of little clay and gravel of red sandstones. Gravels are tiny pebble or granule, tiny granules. Okay, they lack the red soil, lack in fertility. Red or laterite soil, it's not a fertile soil like alluvial soil. Okay, it develops in area which has very high temperature and heavy rainfall. Okay, the humus content in this kind of soil is very low. So that means microorganisms, especially the decomposers like bacteria, they are absent because this kind of soil is formed in high temperature, and high temperature destroys the bacteria, the other microorganisms and decomposers. Okay, this kind of soil is found in Deccan, Karnataka, Kerala, Orissa, Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Assam, and Meghalaya. So in Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, and Kerala, this soil is used for the growth of cashew nut. It is very suitable for growing cashew nut. Okay, and in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka, the same soil is appropriate for growing tea and coffee. So although it is not fertile, but at the same time it is also suitable for certain crops. It is also suitable for certain plants. The fifth type of soil is called arid soils. Now this is sandy in texture. Okay, it's very sandy, just like sand. And the color of this soil ranges from red to brown. So they look red or they look reddish brown, brownish red, also brown. They are saline in nature. They have salt content in the nature, in the soil. So in some of the soil, the salt content is very high. They are saline, but there are some areas where arid soil is found, and in that the salt content is extremely high. They are formed in dry climate areas with high temperature, like Rajasthan, okay? And because in such areas with high temperature and dry climate, evaporation, the process of moisture getting evaporated is very fast, and hence the soil becomes very dry, okay? And even in this soil, the humus content is extremely low. Okay, if the soil has to be irrigated and plowed, then the irrigation and plowing process needs extra work, because it has to be plowed and irrigated deep enough to be cultivated, so that the water penetrates deep into the soil, okay, so that the nutrients required to make the soil fertile penetrates deep into the soil. The final type of the soil is called forest soils. Now this forest soil is found in areas of rainforests, in the hilly and mountainous areas. And the forest soil is not same in all areas. So the forest soil can be found in the mountains of Himalayas, in the hilly areas of northeastern part of India. But the soil found in these two different regions can be completely different from one another, although they can both be forest soils. Okay, there is variation in the texture, how they feel. Okay. Soils in the lower part of the valley, especially on the river terraces and alluvial fans, are fertile. So the soils which are in the lower valleys, okay, they are fertile. But the soils which are in the snow-covered areas, they are acidic. So if you go up in the mountains where there is snowfall, where it experiences snowfall, the soil is acidic. But if you come down below the hills or below the mountains and come to the valley area, the soil is fertile. These forest soils, they have low humus content. Okay, the valley sides have silty and loamy soil. They have silt and they are quite fertile. But the upper soils, if you go up in the hills and mountains, the soils are acidic, but at the same time they are coarse grained soil. They are very hard to touch to. Okay, if you touch them, they are very hard and they are quite grainy, like sand. But if you go to the valley sides, then the soil are very soft and silty and loamy. Okay. Now the next we are going to see is soil erosion. Now what is soil erosion? When the topsoil gets removed by running water or wind, then that is called soil erosion. Now, soil erosion, when it happens, it leads to maximum loss of soil fertility. With erosion, the fertility of the soil decreases. Okay, there are two ways in which soil erosion takes place. One is sheet erosion and the other is gully erosion. Now, sheet erosion takes place as a result of heavy rainfall. When the rainfall is very heavy, then the topsoil gets run off. Okay? And that if the topsoil is not protected, if the topsoil in such areas which receives heavy rainfall is not protected, then the plant cover also gets decreased. The plants or the trees or the vegetation that grows in that area also decreases or reduces. Okay, because the soil gets washed away by the force of the surface. Okay, and with the soil being washed away, there is no fertility left, and when there is no fertility, the plants cannot grow. Now what is gully erosion? When rain falls heavily over an uneven terrain, the runoff scoops out narrow and deep grooves. So if there is an uneven terrain, the rainfall happens and it scoops it scoops this area and it keeps scooping because the rainfall is heavy. And as a result of the scooping, narrow and deep grooves are formed. So this is called gully erosion. So over time, grooves and gullies grow in size and spread over large area. Okay, they spread over large area. They may also look like a pond. It leads to formation of ravines and badlands. Okay, an example of such gully erosion is Chambal Valley in Madhya Pradesh. Now, soil erosion is caused both by physical and human factors. Okay, human also through their activities cause soil erosion, and we have physical factors like climate, rainfall, temperature, all that also leads to soil erosion. Now, physical factors are slope of the land. Because of the slope of the land, the soil erosion is very easy. Intensity of the rainfall. With the intensity of the rainfall, the topsoil gets washed off or run off. The velocity of the wind. The stronger the wind, the easier it is for erosion to take place. Okay. Now, what are the human factors? They are deforestation, overgrazing. Deforestation means large number of trees being cut, forests being denuded for creation of settlement areas for people to live, for agricultural purposes, for building of industries, for building of roads, etc. Overgrazing is use of the land for grazing of animals. Now, when overgrazing happens, then the soil cannot be held by the plant or the roots of the plant because the plants are all dead now, eaten by animals. So it becomes very easy for that soil to get eroded, okay, when the rain falls or when the wind blows very strongly. Overuse of chemical fertilizers. With the use of chemical fertilizers, also soil erosion is caused. Over irrigation. Okay, over irrigation also causes soil erosion. Mining and unscientific farming methods also leads to soil erosion. So this is a map of India where we can see types of soil all across the country. Okay, so this here is indicates mountain soils, alluvial soil. So you can place you can see the pattern and then follow what that pattern indicates. Okay, so these are desert soils. Where is this? Here, this is desert soil. And if you want to find mountain soils, then you look for this pattern. So these are mountain soils. Okay, the spotty ones with spots, they are red soils and yellow soils. So you can see where the spots are and you can identify these regions have red and yellow soil. Okay, now next we are going to look at soil conservation. So we looked at soil as a resource, land as a resource, we looked at soil erosion. Now we'll look at conservation, how to prevent the soil from erosion, how to protect it. Okay, now soil is a renewable natural resource. It can be replenished, but that replenishing process takes a long time. We know that soil supports life on earth. That is why soil is a very important asset to human beings. Okay, that is why conservation of soil becomes even more important. Alright, there are two processes. One is soil formation and soil erosion. They take place simultaneously, side by side. Okay, so soil gets formed, at the same time soil gets eroded. So these two processes take place side by side. But for us to conserve the soil, we have to make sure that the balance between the two is maintained. The balance between soil formation and soil erosion needs to be maintained. If that is not maintained, then we cannot conserve the soil. Okay. Now, the balance between the two is affected due to human interference as well as natural forces. The human interferences are deforestation, cutting down of trees, overgrazing, mining, construction, etc. These lead to not maintaining the balance between soil formation and soil erosion. Natural forces are glaciers, wind and water. These cause soil erosion, and with that what happens? The balance does not maintain. Now conservation is a man-made effort, right? When we say we must conserve the resource, it's an effort made by human beings, okay? It's an effort that we make as a global community or as a community, okay? So conservation is needed to prevent soil erosion. And why we need soil erosion to be stopped? So that the fertility of the soil is retained. Okay, so there are some of the measures which can be taken to stop soil erosion, to retain the fertility of the soil. What are they? First is afforestation, meaning growing of trees, okay, planting more trees. We know of deforestation, cutting down of trees. Afforestation is growing of trees, planting of trees, okay. Second is control of overgrazing. If we control overgrazing of animals on land, then we can prevent soil erosion. Terrace farming is one of the ways to prevent soil erosion. So terrace farming, I'm sure you must have seen in the hills. The farming is done in this manner. They make terrace like patterns, and here farming is done. Okay, so when terrace farming is done, then even if the water washes the soil here, it comes and deposits here. Even if it washes from the second level, it deposits in the next level. So that way the soil erosion can be prevented, and with that the fertility of the soil can be retained. Contour ploughing is another measure to prevent. Contour ploughing is if the size or if the shape of the plane of the terrain is in such a way, if it is in this way, then the ploughing is also done in this way, so that when the water flows or the wind flows, then it does not disturb the pattern of the contour, but rather it retains the fertility of the soil and erosion does not take place. Okay. Strip cropping is another means, another measure we can adopt to conserve the soil. So in strip cropping, we have, so if we grow the crop here, we divide the land into strips. Okay, so these are our crops, and in between the strips we plant trees. We plant trees, so that way even if the wind blows, even when the wind blows, the wind, no matter how strong or light it is, it cannot blow the soil away. Okay, these will act as barriers and prevent the erosion. Crop rotation is another measure. Now we cultivate, the farmers cultivate crops, but if they keep on cultivate the same crop, then that loses the fertility of the soil, that makes the soil prone to erosion. But if the crops are cultivated in rotation, so for example, for 1 year the crop that is cultivated is wheat, next year it is paddy. So if it is rotated that way, then that stops or prevents soil erosion. The second one is no-till farming. Okay, that is another method of preventing soil erosion. Construction of small dams is also another measure. By constructing dams, by making sure that in the farming areas, we do not use much more technologies, okay, machines. So that also helps in the prevention of soil erosion.